Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today we're standing here underneath the concrete maker that we built in yesterday's episode, and I have been using this thing a whole bunch and it's working really well. I've done a little bit of additional stuff to this whole thing which I will take you through in just a second. I like the autumnal colours that we're going with right now. That's entirely unintentional, but it's reminding me of the candy corn that you get at American Halloween. Anyway, coming on down here, what we now have underneath this revised collection system, because I figured we could probably push that up and put a storage system underneath it, we have storage for all 16 colours of concrete, and because I wanted this to be a symmetrical storage system, but we were going to have an odd number of chests, I decided to put one at the end here for overflow. So if we actually fill up any of these chests, if we produce a huge amount of white concrete or red concrete or something, enough to fill 2 double chests, the extra storage buffer we have here, and all of the hoppers up to the filter, which we have here, then the rest of it should just be carried around the circle and end up in this overflow chest here. But I wanted to have a sorting system down here because it's really nice to be able to just walk in, pick up the color of concrete that you want without any additional, sorting through a single chest to do. And obviously that's a pretty huge investment in terms of hoppers and stuff, but I think in the long term, it is going to be worth it. Now up here at the top, I have added a hopper timer, a standard Etho hopper clock, which is just powering the note block every so often. And I've got, I think, about 92 items in this. I think that's the number I settled on for the optimal amount so that the machine didn't jam up. Instead, it drops a TNT every so often. I think it's probably about every 30 seconds. It takes a minute to fill up this machine in its entirety, but remember, the TNT is only ever going to explode the bottom half of these, so you really don't need all that long in between TNT drops, and all I have to do is flick that lever on, start placing concrete powder in the machine, have it fed to me by the dropper system that we installed yesterday, and it all runs flawlessly. It's done pretty well. I've got a few stacks of each type of concrete powder, give or take. I think I'm still waiting on a little bit of like cyan and stuff that I need to fill up the filter before we can start filling up the chest, but this is going to be a very valuable thing. And I did notice a bunch of people in the comments yesterday were asking me why I didn't do it one way or the other, why I didn't use zero ticking pistons, for instance, or why I didn't have a TNT duplicator at the top of here. Hands up in the comments if you knew a TNT duplicator was a thing, because the idea behind this series, for those of you guys who might be new and might be used to watching standard Let's Plays, this is a tutorial series, and I'm trying not to overwhelm people with a bunch of concepts in one episode. Occasionally I have done that, and I'm worried about leaving people behind if they are a little bit less confident with redstone. So what I wanted to do was present a fairly basic concrete converter, one that didn't use a bunch of fancy stuff that I would have to explain in the episode and make it a whole bunch longer, and it's stuff that we can save for the future when people have worked through the rest of the series and maybe they're a little bit more confident with their redstone stuff. So while we have followed other people's tutorials for zero ticking bamboo farms and stuff in the past, I didn't want to overcomplicate yesterday's video when showing you how to build a redstone contraption like this. So hopefully you guys will understand that, and I promise that we will get to some of the more efficient stuff in future. But right now, efficiency is not a huge factor for me. I've got a fair amount of spare time that I can spend AFKing at machines like this if I need to, and by and large, the timing of things really isn't all that important. I can appreciate that a TNT duplicator would be kind of useful in terms of conserving sand, because while gunpowder is obviously not a big problem for us anymore, we've got a creeper farm and a witch farm, plus the general mob farm, all of which will produce a sizable amount of gunpowder. Sand is still not really a renewable resource. You can buy it from wandering traders when they have it, and the guys who showed up in the last couple of episodes did not have any sand to trade me, but even so, you can only buy it in really small quantities, and then that sand, that if you're not using it for TNT, you can use it to smelt glass, or you can use it to make more concrete powder, for instance. So yeah, I appreciate the sentiment with which those comments were given. I'm sure nobody was trying to be pushy about it. I'm sure people were just trying to help me conserve resources as best I can, and don't worry, I know about all of that stuff. I don't necessarily know how to build it off the top of my head, and I'm probably not very good at explaining it yet, so give me time, we'll cover stuff like that in the future. One of the other things I also prefer not to do with this series, if I can help it, is straight up copy somebody else's design. So I'm not necessarily going to go to Mumbo Jumbo or Ilmango or any of the brilliant redstone folks out there and just copy their tutorial note for note if I can figure out a way of doing it myself. As in the case of this concrete converter, it took a little bit of fiddling around in my creative test world, but I was able to produce a design like that. However, today's episode is an exception to my rule because we're going to break Bedrock again, and to be honest, I am all at sea when it comes to the idea of breaking Bedrock and figuring out how to do that myself. It seems like a feat of technical wizardry and glitchery that I do not fully understand, and so that's where I leave it to the experts. But today, we are going to go back to the end, and we're going to break the Bedrock on those end gateways. And unfortunately, the method I used to break Bedrock in Minecraft 1.13 is no longer quite the same. It doesn't exactly work the same way. If you follow the same steps, you won't always get the same result. And so, I had to turn to somebody else's tutorial to figure out a reliable way of doing it in Minecraft 1.14. And so this is the point in the video in which I have to tip my hat to Frilioth. Frilioth is another Minecraft YouTuber who makes tutorial videos, he makes technical videos, he makes a whole bunch of stuff over on his channel, which I will have linked in the description, along with a link to the particular video where he showcases this method for breaking Bedrock. It's also a really neat way of getting onto the roof of the Nether, which I recommend using if you haven't gotten onto the roof of the Nether yet. It's very, very straightforward and super good. And he puts it in the context of breaking Bedrock in the roof of the Nether, and today we are going to break Bedrock around these end gateway portals. And I believe the technique itself was not Frilioth's own creation, but he showcases it in a fantastically easy to understand way. So if for whatever reason my tutorial baffles you, please do check out Frilioth's channel. He's also got a series quite similar to the Minecraft Survival Guide called the Minecraft Survival Manual, I believe, which is also probably going to be worth checking out as well. So we have 5 pieces of bedrock on top of this end gateway portal, and thankfully the method required to break Bedrock in this case should be sufficient to break these top 5, or rather top 6, I guess, because I believe there is one underneath there as well. So we're breaking 6 pieces of bedrock on each of these 20 portals. So quick maths, that's a lot. That's a great deal of bedrock that we could potentially break if we want to do this all the way around. I'm going to start off with 1 or 2 in today's episode. We'll see how much time I have. I'm definitely not going to get all of these done, so we're probably going to be doing this for quite some time, but I thought I would give this a try because I love the idea of just being able to walk up into these things, and it's also a neat showcase of the bedrock breaking mechanics in Minecraft 1.14. So we will need a bunch of components for this, eerie noises. We will need a bunch of redstone components, including some pistons and sticky pistons, activator rails, redstone repeaters, a comparator or 2, some redstone dust, some blocks of redstone, and we will need TNT minecarts by the bucket load. So I have made some more TNT, and I've made a bunch of minecarts, or I had a bunch of minecarts with me already, and we're going to be putting this method through its paces. We will also need quite a lot of obsidian, because obsidian is required to keep the redstone flowing around this circuit that we're about to build. It's quite precise. A lot of this stuff, you can't really fudge your way through it. You need to know exactly what you're doing. So the obsidian is going to be very, very useful. And we want to place some pistons around the top of this piece of bedrock here. And we've chosen a pretty decent location for this. It's over a bit of landmass, so we're not going to worry too much about ending up over the void. But, of course, if we're doing this out in the end, we need to be pretty careful. I brought some materials for bridging around as well. Don't want to risk using scaffolding and falling off it, so I'm going to use some cobblestone. We're going to pillar up and see what we can do up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is place some blocks either side of this piece of bedrock here. This is the one that we're going to be breaking. And now we will need to delve into our redstone box to get a piston and a sticky piston. We'll need some more pistons later, so I'll keep those handy, but for now, we just need these 2, and we're going to be placing them with a regular piston facing this way, facing inwards like so, and a sticky piston facing inwards like that, above the top of this piece of bedrock. The pistons aren't going to be pushing the bedrock or anything, so they need to be above the top of it here. Now, from this point, we need to start bridging out using obsidian. And because we don't have the luxury of the bedrock nether ceiling here, we are going to have to bridge out with a lot of obsidian. So I'm going to place some cobblestone here to get us started. We want to start there and there, next to this first piston. And we want to come out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this way, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that way. We're going to place a cobblestone block here, and along the edge of this, we're going to count out 5 redstone repeaters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like so. Okay, and this is the point where we need to turn a corner. We want to come out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more blocks of obsidian there, and we need to continue that over here to this point. We're also going to put some obsidian on this other side, like so. I'm using so much obsidian for this. It's going to be such a pain to take down, but trust me, it's all going to be worth it. Now we need to place 5 more repeaters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going to there. And we need to have a redstone dust blob on the corner just to make sure that that rounds the corner okay. And each of these repeaters needs to be set to their maximum delay length. So we want 4 ticks on each repeater, and that's going to mean that this times very precisely with what we're going to do over here. And that is where the first of our TNT minecarts comes in, and we should only need 2 of these per piece of bedrock. It is going to be quite expensive, so it'll help if you have an iron farm and some means of harvesting gunpowder, or, you know, if you're duplicating TNT for your concrete converter, then great. We're going to place the activator rail here and the TNT minecart there. It's going to be a little bit scary right now, but don't worry about it too much. As long as we have the rest of the redstone here, this should go according to plan. Now, do I have a lever on me? No, I don't. Okay, luckily I've got some sticks with me, and we've got some cobblestone, so we can just make ourselves a lever. The lever is very important for this whole procedure, and I need to make sure that I've tidied up everything else around here, and I think just for safety, because the TNT minecart explosion might be quite large, I might actually pour some water over here. Actually, you know what? It's fine. It should be fine. If we end up breaking anything here, I'm pretty sure TNT minecarts also have a 100% drop rate, so there is every chance that if we end up breaking something in the ring around here, we can just rebuild it. So the water is now evaporating into the void. I think we've done everything correctly here. All we should need to do is pull this lever and then run away from the TNT minecart explosion like so. We can watch this from the ring over here. There we go. And I don't know if you caught what just happened, but basically that has exploded the head off that piston there, much in the same way as we did in the... oh, we got a beacon coming out of there. Much in the same way that we did in the original bedrock breaking video on the nether roof using our other methods. So effectively, we're using the same mechanics here, but they are being used in a slightly different way. Now, before we go any further, here's something that's very important. We need to place a redstone block on top of this piston so that we can isolate it from anything else that we do with the redstone back here, because we are going to have to remove this block, and we're going to put 3 cobblestone around the back here, and that's going to provide a redstone signal to this sticky piston here. And we're not going to need the redstone signal right now, but we are going to need it in just a second, because we're going to place another TNT minecart and attempt to blow the head off of this piston as well. Second TNT minecart at the ready. Let's glide down here to the ring, and hopefully once again it does not blow anything up except the head of that sticky piston, which has been activated using exactly the same timer as we used for the first one. And with that taken care of, we can isolate that with a redstone block, and we should be able to take out these repeaters now and turn off the lever down here. We don't need any more of this stuff. And by the way, if any of my inventory looks different from this point onwards, and you're like, hang on a second, why do you have less durability on your pickaxe and elytra, and why does some of this look different? It's because I've had to do this a couple of times, and I think I figured out what I was doing wrong. So ignore that. I've cut that out of the video just for the purposes of like keeping this brief. You don't need to see my failed attempts, you need to see how to do this exactly. So we're going to remove the obsidian from here. That's all taken care of now, as long as we've got those 2 redstone blocks above those pistons. Make sure you don't update, change these pistons in any way, break them, or break the redstone blocks. That's the most important part right here. And because we don't have the luxury of the bedrock ceiling here, we do need to build out a little bit of a platform here like so. One important thing to do is to make sure there is a block in this space, and I'm going to use a non-pushable block like obsidian because that seems to be quite important to the process. I think that's why it's messed me up a couple of times. Now, we need to be placing a piston facing upwards on here. That's going to activate. That's totally fine. And we need to place a piston facing downwards on the block adjacent to it, on top of this obsidian block, basically. And now, obviously, on the nether ceiling, that's a bit of a problem because you've got the bedrock all around you. You can't sort of duck yourself down very easily. So you can either crouch and place it, or you could use pistons to push it down into place. However, here in the end, it's nice and easy to just place a piston facing downwards on that block there, and then we can pillar back up here, no harm done. Next to that, we want to place a single building block, and out from there... Whoa, okay, that guy gave me a fright there for a second. Should be able to take care of you. Yeah, we do not want the Enderman interfering when we're doing this. All right, where was I? Slime blocks. There we go. We're going to grab some slime blocks and push them out here in a kind of right angle shape like so. Next step is to grab a sticky piston and have that facing this way, attached to this building block, and it's going to retract these slime blocks in that direction in just a second. Now we need to place a block there as well, and the rest of this should be good to go. Okay, we need to place 4 building blocks along there, like so, and we'll add some comparators and some redstone repeaters to this section here. So we want a comparator, a repeater, a comparator, a repeater, 2 repeaters there, and 2 comparators there. That's very specific. Make sure you place the components in this formation. But now we should be able to grab our lever from the end of here so we don't have to worry about the delay. We're going to put redstone dust along these, and we're going to place the lever on the end here, so that's going to activate all of this. Let me just quickly check that everything is in place. Seems like it should be. Okay, here we go. We're going to flick that lever. You'll notice that that piston pushes out, the other piston does not, and nothing has really happened to this section here, except we can now take away these redstone blocks because that bit is now powered. Those 2 pistons are now receiving power, and this is the moment of truth, because when we switch off this lever, everything should all happen at once, and it should break the piece of bedrock that is underneath this piston that's standing up here. Fingers crossed that this works. Okay, that seems like it might have done something. Let's take a quick look underneath there. And there it is. We've broken a piece of bedrock on the end gateway. Now, if I take down all of the stuff that was around here, you'll see that we just have a flat plus shape of bedrock there, and the top piece is missing. Now, in order to break out the rest of this gateway and have it be something that we can walk into, in theory, we only need to break the middle piece at the top there, and then we could maybe drop into it. But I would really like to break the other 4 pieces around that as well, so I'm going to have to do this successfully 5 more times. And I don't exactly trust my elytra to keep all of their durability while I'm doing that, so I'm actually going to go and visit my ender. I'm going to recharge some of my tools, mend the elytra, and then I'm going to come back here and try and remove the rest of this bedrock off camera so you guys don't have to sit through that whole process again. But then I decided that I'd probably better prove that I had done all of this in survival. I mainly want to prove it to myself, if nothing else, because I'm still just tremendously surprised that it's possible to do anything like this in survival Minecraft. A lot of people on the comments of my original Breaking Bedrock video just said, or just go into creative mode. And to me, that kind of goes against what I like about Minecraft. And what I like about Minecraft is that the sheer sandboxy nature of it and the sheer number of people who have played the game has led to stuff like this. Like, the people who are more capable technical players have come up with a way of breaking an unbreakable block in survival Minecraft. That's 1 bedrock down, by the way. This is all being sped up about 1,000% of the original speed. So this whole thing took about half an hour to clear out these remaining 5 pieces, and you'll notice that a couple of the times that piston breaks. Frilioth noted this in his original tutorial. He would say that there is a small chance for the explosion, like 1 in every 20 times or so, to break one of the pistons instead of just breaking off the piston head. There's a bit of randomness and variation in TNT explosions, which we've discussed before, so that's why you notice the piston break and I have to replace it a couple of times. But for the most part, once you get into a rhythm, it's plain sailing. Once you know the method, it's actually quite straightforward to do, even if it does look completely bizarre from the outside. Of course, the most time-consuming aspect of this entire process was breaking down all of the obsidian, because the first 3 blocks, all I had to do was move the whole setup 1 block over each time, but then following that, I obviously had to do the block in front and the block behind, and that took basically tearing down the entire obsidian platform just to make sure I'd built stuff right and the proportions weren't off, and there wasn't an extra block shielding the pistons from the explosion or something like that. So it would take a little while to set up the front and back block, but you're able to take those down just the same. There is occasionally some weird behaviour with the pistons as well. I'm not entirely sure why that one didn't break the head off a couple of times. I checked the repeaters, they were all fine. It's just occasionally it comes up with some weird behaviour, but this is all based on weird behaviour in the first place, so I'm not sure what I was expecting. Welcome back, folks. I hope you enjoyed the time-lapse. This is really weird, let me tell you. It is very strange looking at this without the bedrock around it, and as you saw probably at the end of that time-lapse, but I'll demonstrate for you here in first person, you do just walk into it and get teleported, which is really cool. I love this idea, and I like the idea that that would, like, beam you up into a ship, and then the ship could carry you out here, or... What I have planned, actually, is a couple of ships that look like they're flying away from this point, having just dropped you off at this kind of beacon thing. Anyway, we need to get back through there, so I'm probably going to try and fly through. And if I fly through at a certain angle, it is actually possible to come out the other side flying, I think. Does require me to have enough fireworks, though, and I've only got one left, so it'll have to be ender pearls if I don't get this right. Yep, okay, let me find some ender pearls. Really should have brought my ender chest out here with me or gotten some more fireworks before I attempted that, and I almost looked at that enderman square in the face, but there we go, we're back, and the gateway is still exactly the same. So that took probably about 45 minutes total, including the top piece of bedrock that we did on camera. Everything else was done in about half an hour. So once you get into a rhythm of these things, it's actually pretty straightforward to do. But multiply that by 20 for a second. Imagine each one of these takes 45 minutes. That's going to be 15 hours worth of work. I'm definitely not going to get all of that done today. I might get a fair amount more done. I might try and do maybe 2 or 3 more of these around the circle, because the one I chose was kind of arbitrary, just in case I messed something up. And this one doesn't go anywhere. This one isn't an interesting one as far as the circle is concerned, although it is the easternmost one. It is the one on the eastern axis, so perhaps eventually we will end up doing something fun with this one. But the rest of these, yeah, I might do the north, south, east, and west ones today, just to get some practice in, and then maybe we'll do the rest on a live stream or something like that. It is less important to me. But the idea behind this, the reason I wanted to do this in the first place, do you want to walk in? Are you going on a trip? The idea behind this is that you could now decorate these things to look like high-tech futuristic teleporters without having to incorporate the bedrock. And you have that freedom of travel to be able to just walk up into this thing instead of having trapdoors and crawling in, or flying in using elytra, or wasting an ender pearl on it. You can just hop up in there and walk through. And I really like that. I also really love these blocks. They are so trippy to look at up close. That parallax scrolling effect is so nice. So it's kind of cool to just expose them for the first time. Now, unfortunately, we can't really do the same with the bedrock around the outside here, because as you saw in the tutorial, you kind of have to place blocks on every single side of the block you want to delete, and this block will not let you do that. It is possible to remove these by dispensing a bucket of water into them. If you have a dispenser facing this way and it outputs a bucket of water, then that will break this end portal block, and you can actually remove the blocks from the central end portal with water as well, but I'm definitely not going to do that because that is my only ticket home. But I hope you folks have enjoyed this look at how to break bedrock in Minecraft 1.14, and the first time we have ever broken bedrock in the end. Definitely not the last, but the last for this episode. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Once again, credit to Frilioth for an excellent tutorial. His links will be in the description. Don't forget to leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.